Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this first annual fight night brought to you by HTS. Joining me at ringside is Chris Morris. Hello, Chris.
Thanks, Al. It's great to be here.
Well, that's right, Chris. It is great to be here. We got a slobber knocker of a fight tonight. Freddy Krueger against Jason Voorhees. How do you rate these guys?
Well, of course, having covered 10 Friday the 13th films for which Jason Voorhees is known, he's a formidable foe, but Freddy Krueger has the potential to be a nightmare for his opponent in a very literal sense there.
Absolutely, the man is the stuff of dreams.
Looking out in the corners there, Joe, not many people in Krueger's corner, but it's nice to see that Jason's mother has shown up to support him.
She loves her son, that's for sure. Interestingly, Jason Voorhees is now 0-10, having been beaten in the last 10 outings and killed in every single one of them.
I mean, the stats can tell you one perspective, Joe, but of course, the other perspective are the literally dozens and dozens of dead teenagers that he's left behind.
That's absolutely true, Chris, but of course tonight he's not fighting a dead teenager. He is fighting against the formidable Freddy Krueger.
Well, he's never fighting a dead teenager, Joe.
That's quite right, Chris.
Al.
I gotta stop you there. We're getting ready for the fight down at ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time! This main event is sponsored by How to Survive and is for the undisputed, most boring movie villain of all time title. Introducing first, fighting out of Elm Street, Springwood, weighing in at less than 1 ounce and wearing a striped jumper, Freddy Krueger! And his opponent, fighting out of Camp Crystal Lake, weighing in at 200 pounds and standing 8 feet tall, wearing gray overalls and a hockey mask, Jason Voorhees.
Hello and welcome to episode 101 of the How to Survive podcast. My name is Joe. Joining me, as ever, is Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thanks. This week's movie is not 101 Dalmatians, nor is it Room 101. 1984 had Room 101, didn't it?
Yeah.
Not that. It's not 101 Jump Street.
What's happened here is that you've gone off...
101 A Space Odyssey.
Your mouth is writing checks that your mind can't cash.
Correct. Do you want to take over? Tell them what they got coming up.
Well, of course, Joe, this week, as with every other week, what they've got to look forward to is the usual dissection of this week's film, and then we'll recap the plot and we'll move on to How to Survive.
Yeah. And what is the film this week, Chris?
It's that 2003 Ronnie Yu classic.
We all know it.
Freddy versus Jason, which is the 11th Friday the 13th film that we've covered in our odyssey to watch all of them.
Yeah.
One every 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Here we are, our 11th time sitting down to discuss Jason Voorhees and his machinations.
Yeah.
So we'll begin by recapping the plot. For anyone who hasn't seen Freddy versus Jason, it is available on Netflix in the UK.
Yeah.
So you can go and watch it so that you're all up to date when we, as you say, dissect it. When we slash it to pieces with our clawed gloves and our machetes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we'll talk about how to survive in it.
Yeah.
Welcome to my nightmare. Why won't you die? Freddy versus Jason.
Place your bets.
Freddy Krueger begins the movie by explaining who Freddy Krueger is and how he kills his victims, which is in their dreams.
Yes.
Through a series of flashbacks, which remind us of superior movies, which we would rather be watching, Freddy reveals that since nobody in town remembers him, he is now powerless because he requires people to be able to worry about them in their dreams in order to to manifest in those dreams.
Mm-hmm.
But he has found someone in hell who can help him out.
Who could that be?
Yeah. Meanwhile, in some kind of dream state, despite being dead, Jason Voorhees lumbers around Camp Crystal Lake on the hunt for a young woman to murder.
Mm.
He's accosted by his mother, who tells him to go to Elm Street and kill teenagers there. After he leaves frame, which is a strange thing considering it's his dream, his mother's face melts away to reveal that it was Freddy Krueger all along.
Mm. Can you believe it?
Yes. On Elm Street, Laurie Campbell is entertaining two friends, Kia and Gib. Before long, two boys, Trey and Blake, arrive, and they begin drinking and getting handsy.
Mm.
Trey and Gib, who is a woman, by the way,
Yes. Yeah.
head upstairs and have sex. Gib heads for a shower, but while she's gone, Trey is murdered in bed by Jason Voorhees. The rest of the teenagers alert the police, and they're all taken to the station. At the station, Laurie falls asleep and encounters Freddy Krueger in her dream. Freddy attempts to kill her, but is unable to do her any harm. He states to the camera, rather redundantly, that he is not powerful enough yet.
Mm.
She's only heard a murmur about Freddy, but she needs to have actually had the entire mythology explained to her by someone.
Yeah, so he can appear in her dreams but not actually harm her.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah. Shortly, Blake, who was one of the boys from earlier, is admonished on the porch by his father for being at Laurie's house in the first place. Somehow he then wakes up, it being a dream before, to realise that his father has been decapitated by Jason, who then steps out of the shadows and kills Blake himself. In a rather inconsequential scene.
Yes.
Laurie's ex-boyfriend, Will Rollins, and his friend Mark Davis are patients at Weston Hill Psychiatric Hospital. They are forced to take a drug called Hypnosil because they've had previous contact with Freddy Krueger. And despite the fact that they try to explain to everyone about Freddy Krueger, nobody seems to believe them. A news report about the strange murders leads them to hatch an escape plan. They escape, and Will confronts Laurie, telling her that he was locked away because he witnessed her father murdering her mother many years ago. He says he's being kept prisoner at the mental hospital, and they drug him to keep him quiet. Laurie's father discovers the two, and he's not happy about it, and sends Will packing. Laurie attends a rave in a cornfield with her friends from earlier. Gib believes she sees Trey in the corn and runs after him. Trey was the one who was murdered earlier, in case this is all a bit much.
Yeah.
It's revealed to the audience that Gib is actually unconscious through drink or drugs and is experiencing a Krueger dream. She's chased by Freddy, who eventually corners her. Meanwhile, in the real world, another attendee of the rave begins to molest her unconscious body. As he prepares to rape her, both the rapist and Gib are killed by Jason. Gib's death in the real world means that she is also dead in the dream world, so Freddy can't kill her. So yeah, that's good. She was saved from a sexual assault by being killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Good to have a movie with a good message, isn't it?
Well, she was saved from a dream sexual assault by being murdered in the real world where she was experiencing a real world sexual assault.
Yeah. It's a bit of a frying pan into the fire situation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And not a particularly compelling storyline. Freddy realises that Jason's rampage will deprive him of his victims, and he explains that in arduous terms to the camera. Some other characters join Laurie and Will as they escape. They drive to Mark's house, who's the friend from the psychiatric hospital, where they find Mark being murdered by Freddy in a dream. They drive to the psychiatric hospital to gather Hypnosil, but when they arrive, one of their party, a stoner named Freeberg, falls asleep and is possessed by Freddy. Freddy uses Freeberg's body as a vessel to fight Jason, but loses. In the scuffle, Freddy is able to render Jason unconscious using some sort of sedative. The teens plan to take Jason to Crystal Lake for some reason. Why is that? Take him home?
Because Jason's afraid of water, and...
But they don't know that yet. I think it's... Well, allow me to read on. Freddy battles Jason in the dream world. Freddy takes advantage of the dream environment. But of course, this isn't Jason's first rodeo, and he holds his own pretty well. Freddy bursts a pipe and learns that Jason is scared of water. Laurie falls asleep and saves Jason. But he's now trapped by Freddy, who reveals that it was he who killed her mother, not her father, as originally supposed. Jason wakes up as the sedatives wear off and chases the other teens into a cabin. In the fracas, the cabin catches fire, and wakes Laurie up. As she wakes, she grabs hold of Freddy and pulls him through to the real world, mirroring the events of the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
And even though I haven't seen them, I'd imagine all the other sequels.
Yes. Now surrounded by fire, Freddy is scared, and Jason gets the upper hand. The teens escape as Freddy and Jason redundantly attack each other, with Jason eventually throwing Freddy through the roof, and strangely to safety. Laurie, Will, and Kia, who was a friend from earlier, are now forced to deal with Freddy again. Kia distracts Freddy, but is in turn distracted by Freddy, and Jason kills her. The two, Freddy and Jason, resume fighting, and Laurie and Will escape. Now, during this fight, and this is according to Wikipedia, Freddy uses his speed and intellect to his advantage, while Jason uses his strength and tolerance to extreme forms of attack.
Did you not get that?
No.
All right.
The fight enters a construction area, allowing for various pratfalls and cartoon violence, eventually leading to the dock on Crystal Lake itself. Jason tears Freddy's arms off and stabs him in the eyes with his own claws. Laurie and Will set the dock alight with gasoline and use a set of improperly stored propane tanks as torpedoes to bombard Freddy and Jason, forcing them into the lake. Freddy climbs out and attempts to kill Will and Laurie, but is impaled by Jason with his clawed hand. Laurie decapitates Jason, and Freddy and Jason both fall into the lake. Sometime later, Jason emerges from the water, holding his machete in one hand and Freddy Krueger's severed head in the other. Freddy winks at the camera before laughing. So who's the winner?
Certainly not us, the people who had to watch the film.
No, I'd agree with that. Is it the worst yet?
No, I don't think it's quite as bad as The New Blood or
Takes Manhattan.
Takes Manhattan. I think those are the two low points. Actually, I think the Jason-only scenes in here are not that bad. I think the bed kill at the start is good fun, good gory fun. You know, he like stabs him a number of times and then like folds the entire bed up.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous and funny and gory.
Yeah. It's what you want from a Jason murder.
Yeah. Then there are some nice little things with him, like twisting the guy's head completely round.
Yeah.
Or there's a scene where he like smashes his machete into like an electrical panel and begins being electrocuted, and then grabs someone and like electrocutes them.
Yes.
Channeling the electricity into them until they like melt.
Yeah.
And that's all good, messy fun. I wonder if it's just because we're so used to seeing Friday the 13th films where the production value is so low because it's filmed in the, early 90s or late 1980s.
Yeah.
And, by people who don't know what they're doing. And by this point, there was just like a veneer of professionalism in almost all Hollywood movies that was missing from there.
Yeah. Well, this is shot with digital cameras, presumably, and with the art of CGI.
Well,
so
yeah,
it's cleaner.
The budget is higher, obviously, because they were combining the two franchises, and this was a thing that took a long time for them to come around to. And,
it was 25 years in the making, possibly.
Yeah, and you can tell every second of that production time was well worth it.
So we're well versed in our discussion of this. It was basically, I think, after like Friday the 13th 2, they wanted to combine them and do a Freddy versus Jason crossover.
Sure.
But nobody could seem to get it together.
No, the rights took so long to negotiate that it just fell to pieces, basically.
Yeah. And you ended up with a lot of treading water sequels, which were rubbish. And the only reason they were so rubbish, basically, is because they were waiting to make this film.
Yeah.
And this film is rubbish. That's the disappointing thing about it.
Correct, yeah. But even the enjoyable or semi-enjoyable Jason parts are, without exception, ruined by Freddy Krueger, who way back in episode 7, I think, we first watched the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's good, it's fun, it's got that campy tone. And then about 10 weeks after that, we watched the remake.
Yeah.
And by comparison, that was terrible, nasty, sexualized, unpleasant.
Offensive.
Yeah. And this is, I think, much closer to the remake than it is to the original.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the entire point of Nightmare on Elm Street the first time around was that Freddy Krueger was a child killer, right? And there was an important... I mean, I think Wes Craven wanted to make him a child molester, but was warned against doing that because to do that takes it from, like, oh, he's going to get you, to like, oh, like
He's going to rape you.
Yeah, which is a lot, is unpleasant. I mean, what we often say is that a horror movie should scare you in the same way as a roller coaster.
Yes.
And if that roller coaster like would force you to confront the idea of sexual violence towards children, you would not enjoy it nearly as much.
No.
And that's basically what happens with this film.
Yeah, one of the opening Freddy Krueger scenes is it basically gives the distinct impression that he's raped a small girl.
Yeah. And from that moment on, it's like he's a much more compelling character in a weird way when he's a killer. Because he could be like, hey, I'm going to get you.
Yeah,
whereas if he says that when he's about to sexually assault someone, it's just unpleasant.
Yeah, and it's making, like, I know that some people probably find it weird to sort of make such a distinction between killing a child and raping a child, but there's like something deeply unpleasant, I think, about the latter that's, like not to be joked about in the same way, because it's like, it's the difference between like being chased around the playground in a playful manner and being chased around the playground in a manner that suggests you're going to get raped.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a heavy open to the discussion, but I think it's important because the sort of sexual violence is there from the off and is like genuinely repulsive all the way through. There's a totally unnecessary rape scene at the rave, as you mentioned in the recap. There are lines like Freddy's "It's a bit bloody the first time," which are just sort of unpalatable, and they're completely ruinous to the film's otherwise sort of campy and celebratory tone, which is what it should be, right? It's a celebration of these two giant horror franchises being brought together. It should have like a fun tone to it, and all the way through, it feels much closer to the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which we hated. It's just deeply unpleasant.
Yeah.
I mean, what more is there to say about that element of the film, really?
Like, I don't know, but it does sours the film in a massive way, because you can't enjoy it as a scary movie because you're just thinking this is gross the whole time.
Yeah.
Like every time Freddy's on screen, you're like, well, that, like you said before, you can imagine on the playground you'd play Freddy Krueger, you chase each other, but you can't play the same game if the fucking villain is a rapist.
And like overtly, like making it so overt and making him so like obviously sexualized. Yeah.
It's not pleasant. Not pleasant at all.
Kelly Rowland, though.
Yeah.
She's in the film.
Yes.
Did you, like me, think that she looked about 15 years older than everyone else in the film?
Yeah. Is that because she is?
Well, no, I don't think it is. But I think what it is that we've seen Kelly Rowland so much on like music videos and stuff, and that's like a job. She's in a career.
Yeah.
Right. And she looks identical to how she does in the film in those music videos.
Yeah.
And so when you see her and she's got like that red and black signature hairstyle, colouring and all that, you're just like, well, why is Kelly Rowland like literally stepped out of a pop video? This is madness. Also, she calls Freddy a faggot.
Right.
It's not aged well, has it? In the ensuing like 14 years since the film came out.
No, but still, that's not the worst thing in this film.
No, not by a long shot. But yeah, I think it's bizarre, isn't it? Like, it's such a strange. Like, there's never been like another celebrity in any of these films.
Well, you had Kevin Bacon in the first one.
Well, yeah, but he was an actor. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
Like, this is just like a bit of stunt casting, which is really strange.
No, I think she probably was trying to make a big break into acting.
You think so?
Yeah, obviously.
Well, she herself said that, like, because obviously she was basically ribbed for it being a terrible film.
Yeah.
But she, basically said that she had fun making it and was not bothered by the criticism.
Yeah.
Which is a completely fair stance to take.
Yeah, it's the only stance you can take, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the film and like where it fits within the Friday the 13th canon?
I think it's rubbish. It's just rubbish. They're all rubbish, though. So it's no better or worse than the movies that have come before it.
Yeah.
It's just another one in a series of disappointing movies we have to watch. That's basically it.
Yeah.
I would say at this point, and in this movie specifically, there's just too many lines of mythology. So if I said to you, take a movie with a really simple idea, like Speed.
Yeah.
What's the synopsis there?
Well, it's just, bus can't go over, if it drops below 50 miles an hour, then it will explode.
Okay. Or Crank, another movie with a high concept.
Yeah. He has to keep his heart rate up, otherwise he'll die.
Right. Nice, simple ideas and effective movies. Something like Towering Inferno, buildings on fire, you got to get out. Something like Poseidon Adventure, the ship's tipped over, you got to get out, right?
Yeah.
Now this, what you've got is, there's a character called Freddy Krueger who kills the grown-up children of people who previously burned him to death because he killed their children.
Yeah.
Right, and he's taking vengeance, that's complicated, but okay, we'll get it past.
Well, that's what, that's enough.
Yeah. That's enough mythology for
context.
One movie.
Yeah.
Add to that another character, Jason Voorhees, who is avenging the murder of his mother, who was avenging his death through neglect at a camp, and has spent the last 25 years relentlessly murdering teenagers in the name of that revenge, basically.
And we actually see a nightmare version of that event as well, which is, I suppose one of the slightly more interesting moments of the film.
Yeah.
And it's quite sort of comical in the sense that, the camp counselors are like luridly having sex, like draped over the banisters of the cabins and up against the walls of the cabins, like in the open.
Yeah.
And that heightened silliness is something that's like sorely missing from the rest of the film. Obviously.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's the mythology anyway of Jason Voorhees. Add to that, Chris, if that's not enough to have like your head's fucked. Imagine you haven't seen any of these movies before and you're coming in dry. You'd be like, well, I'm already trying. That's a lot to swallow. Then you've got the whole mythology of Laurie's family, where the father is alleged to have killed the mother, but she was actually killed by Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. And
the father then forcibly drugged Laurie's boyfriend to prevent him from revealing the fact that he witnessed her die.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even make sense. And you've got to tie all these three strands together, right?
Yeah.
And keep them like combined but separate as you watch this film. And it's just fucking mental. And it's so hard to follow. And it doesn't make any sense from start to finish. Do you think that's about fair? Is that about right? That's the problem with versus movies, Chris.
Right.
I mean, you take an example like Freddy vs. Jason, or Alien vs. Predator, or Ash vs. the Evil Dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you've got there is two separate movies with two separate mythologies with two moral outcomes, right?
Right.
And I mean that particularly in the case of something like Alien or the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Those are movies with really heavy moral ideas behind them, strong themes to them, right? And they're not just gimmicks, right? So taking the characters and just transplanting them into a new setting doesn't really work in a compelling way. No. It feels like a Super Smash Brothers game or something.
Yeah, well, it's we've often complained about fan service and when fan service becomes too much in these podcasts, and this is maybe the first film that we've seen which is purely just made for fan service.
Yeah.
Well, and financial gain, I suppose.
Not Force Awakens.
Ooh, controversial.
Yeah, solid.
Not all versus movies are bad though, Joe.
No. Kramer versus Kramer.
Kramer versus Kramer is, of course, the best versus movie. If you haven't seen Kramer versus Kramer, it's truly chilling, action-packed. The story of Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep getting a divorce.
Yep.
In a messy way.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah, that's good.
Good film.
Mm-hmm.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yeah, that's quite good. But
that's a parody, pastiche type film, really. Though.
Yeah, that's good too.
That's it.
Yeah, the problem with those three, though, is that they don't take existing characters and supplant them into...
All right, well, what about these? Okay, so maybe it's just the title that's the problem.
Okay.
So I've taken some films that we've done in the past
and
just turned them into versus movies.
Okay.
So it's not it doesn't need to be an official quiz as such, but just see if you can get them. I think you will, because they're all quite easy. Writer versus fan.
Yep. Misery.
Yeah. Sheriff versus Shark.
Yeah, Jaws.
Yeah. Ray versus Aliens.
Ray versus Aliens.
Yeah.
Is it Ray with an E?
No.
Ray with an A
Yeah.
versus Aliens.
Yeah.
Ray.
Ray Ferrer. It's War of the Worlds.
Oh, that's a good one.
Pat versus the Nazis.
Pat versus the Nazis.
Yeah.
Thinking back through the 100 episodes we've done.
Well, there's only been like 2 that have Nazis in.
Go on.
Green Room.
Oh yeah.
And Newt versus the Obscurus.
I think that was Freddy versus Jason.
Fantastic Beasts, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe like they're still good films. They haven't immediately become bad films just by the virtue of being given a title that's bad.
No, but they have in a way, haven't they?
Yeah, in a way.
It rather cheapens
sullied it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if Freddy versus Jason had been called like Dream Slash. Do you know what I mean?
I think I'd rather watch a film called Dream Slash.
Yeah. So Chris, before we discuss How to Survive,
Yeah.
we always like to check in
Of course.
with
Yeah.
our man Jason.
Yeah.
And that's coming up after this.
This episode of How to Survive is sponsored by Mr. T Luxury Teas, who bring you this week's piece of useless IMDb trivia. This week's film is Freddy vs. Jason. Standing at 6'5" tall, Ken Kirzinger is the tallest actor to date to play Jason Voorhees. That fact might not be worth knowing, but Mr. T certainly is. Head over to Mr. T Luxury Teas to choose from a wide range of traditional, herbal and fruit teas from all over the world, packed with health benefits and gathered to help you get the most out of your day. Visit mr-tea.co.uk or Google Mr. T Luxury Teas to find us. Use offer code SURVIVE at checkout to receive 10% off any order you make.
So what do we know about Jason Voorhees having just watched a terrible movie about him and Freddy? Now, what we didn't know from before is new information.
Mm-hmm.
He's scared of water.
Yeah. I mean, we could surmise it, but then he does kill quite a few people from under the water in a number of the films.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make sense. What he's actually afraid of is being drowned as a small boy.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And afraid of his mother being dead.
Yeah.
He's not really afraid though, is he? He's not like,
cowering. We've never seen him cower.
Until now.
Yeah. But we've never seen him faced with water from a leaking pipe. So maybe it's just the specific water dripping from the ceiling.
Yeah, like
maybe he's scared of showering.
Clearly the last shot implies that he's very much overcome his fear.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He's not running out of the lake. He's just walking quite neatly out of the lake.
Well, like the canonical, the ending to a Friday the 13th film that leads up to this is, of course, Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah.
So
you think
he is in hell finally, right?
Yeah. So you think the Jason X is must be a sequel to this because
yeah,
it takes place about 40 years later, doesn't it?
Of course.
How could I forget?
So will that knowledge help us at all, Joe, though, as we go on to talk about how we would survive?
I think so. I'll start, shall I?
Please.
So my first tip is something I'm surprised we haven't actually come up with yet in How to Survive discussions, which is don't scream when you're running away from someone.
Right. Because it will lead them to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like if you're running and hiding, don't scream the whole time.
What if you can throw your voice and you're like you're coming up to like a junction, like a T junction, and you go right and throw your voice left.
Yeah. But we don't know that Gibb can do that.
That's true.
It's never established in the film.
Yeah.
It'd be an assumption on your part to say that.
Yeah. So what scene is this where she's running?
I believe it was where Gibb is being chased through the cornfields. But that is revealed to be a dream, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So would screaming in a dream help you?
I don't know. That would be an assumption.
Mm.
I think it'd probably not because actually Freddy likes it.
That's true.
He seems to enjoy when people are scared. So maybe don't scream because then he'll be like,
Good.
Yeah. But in any case,
Yeah, well,
it stands to reason that if the characters had been being chased by Jason and they'd like not screamed,
I mean, he seems to have some sort of like innate sense of where they are anyway.
yeah, like a tracking device.
Yeah. But in the broad principle, I agree with you. Is screaming necessary? I suppose it's not.
No,
It might be involuntary.
that's the problem, isn't it? We don't know.
What if you're running away from a threat and by virtue of doing it silently, someone who could have come to your aid doesn't realise you're in trouble? That's why people scream, isn't it? Is to get help.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah. That's
Like
a good
in
point.
an evolutionary sense, that's presumably the only reason anyone would scream.
Or to scare the threat off.
I don't think it's very threatening to run away from something making a high-pitched noise.
No. But if a snow leopard was confronting you and you were like, ah! It'd be quite scary. So it?
Would it?
I don't know. I
Well,
think
why are you suggesting
I
it
think
then?
that is the guideline. That is the guideline. If you're
The
confronted with a,
guideline.
you have to unzip your jacket, make yourself really big, and go like, and like,
Right.
the snow leopard runs away.
Okay. What if the snow you scare the snow leopard off, but you attract Jason in the meantime?
That's a problem.
You're in trouble.
Yeah. Always carry a gun. That's my new How to Survive idea.
This is a different idea now.
Yeah. No. So do you disagree that not screaming would help?
It depends on the context. If
Right.
you're like in the middle of a field,
Yeah.
then it could help because, if you're in a cornfield, as they are at one point in the film, he's going to find it more difficult to locate you. But if you're in like a street, like the main character in Halloween, screaming could help you because someone else could come to your aid.
Actually, Chris, screaming doesn't help her, does it?
That's true, but that's because of her indifferent neighbours.
Yeah. So maybe if she hadn't screamed, Michael Myers wouldn't know where she was.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I've managed to undercut my own point that I was making. So yeah, no, you're right. You're don't never scream.
Never scream in any circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep stum. But then in Hush, she can't speak at all.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help her.
That's true, but then that is an exception, isn't it?
Well, so
Like, the movie is designed to be an exception to that rule.
yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Got any thoughts on how you'd survive against Freddy / Jason versing off against each other?
Well, yeah. Basically, this is a bit of parenting advice for Pamela.
Pamela Voorhees.
Yeah.
Oh, Pam.
Yeah, she. We get to see a bit of Jason in camp, like actually in the camp environment.
Yes.
And it's clear that he's having a terrible time. Like he's being relentlessly and mercilessly bullied.
Tormented.
Yeah. And I don't imagine that this, happened. I don't imagine that this started happening 5 seconds before,
No.
we joined the scene. So I'd imagine he'd probably gone to camp, maybe phoned home and said, Mum, they're bullying me something awful because I'm a child who is deformed and potentially educationally subnormal.
Yeah.
And as a result, all the other children here at this camp have been bullying me mercilessly.
It's worse
as
than that.
children I want to do.
It's worse than that as well because his mother actually worked at the camp as the cook.
That's true. Yeah.
So you didn't even have to phone.
Yeah,
she could
you
just
could
look out the window and see it happening.
Yeah. So she's the only staff member who's paying any attention.
Yeah.
Like if she's so annoyed that the staff didn't save her child, like she should take a long hard look at herself.
Yeah.
I think because she must have known the abuse that he was suffering.
Yeah.
And she left him there at the mercy of it. She's probably, giving him parental platitudes, going, oh, you just got to ignore them or they're jealous of you or whatever. But at the end of the day, Jason Voorhees ended up dead, as did many dozens of teenagers.
Yeah.
And all that blood is on Pamela Voorhees' hands.
I don't think she minds because a lot of that blood is literally on her hands.
But I think that pre her madness, she would have abhorred the idea of murder.
Is that true? Because looking back on the mythology and piecing things together, I believe in the final chapter, or Jason goes to hell. In Jason Goes to Hell, I think we learned that the Jason The Voorhees family lived in a mansion.
Yeah, the father was abusive or something, was it?
I don't know.
But I mean, there's no evidence to suggest that Pamela Voorhees was predisposed to murder.
No.
That I know of. And so even though she later decided that was her hobby of choice,
Yeah.
she would have saved a lot of lives if she'd have just gone, you know what, Jason, you can stay at home this summer.
But she worked there. Maybe it's like a take your kid to work day.
Well, she should have known better. You got to prioritise your child's safety and welfare.
There's two things I think.
Physical and
here, Chris.
psychological welfare.
Two things are happening here. One, you're relying on Jason himself to be able to report what's happening. As you mentioned, he is
No, but you said yourself that Pamela Voorhees is there. She should have some idea of what's going on.
We know she's in the kitchen. We don't know where the kitchen is.
Right, it could be off-site.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, it could be like a mile into the woods.
Yeah.
Completely out of the view of the lake, right? Now, you're relying on Jason, who you've mentioned is educationally subnormal,
Yeah.
being able to explain what's happening to his mum.
Yeah, but she should be like an able enough parent to understand her child.
Right.
Like, even if he's not able to vocalize or put into words what has happened, she'll be able to draw a connecting line between taking him to Camp Crystal Lake and him returning in a state of obvious distress.
Yeah.
Every single time she does it.
Yeah. Are you victim blaming, you think?
No, I'm not victim blaming. Who's the victim?
Pamela Voorhees.
She's not the
and her
victim.
son.
Jason Voorhees is the victim. I'm not blaming Jason Voorhees. I'm blaming Pamela Voorhees for
facilitating.
Yeah.
But
parents go to prison for neglect.
Yeah.
And for putting their children in situations that are adverse to their physical and psychological welfare.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what she's been doing.
If your child went to school and was being bullied, are you liable for that?
If you work at the school and you avoid acting on any of the signs that your child has been bullied, then I think you're partially responsible.
Yeah.
Look, the
but
question...
Maybe Pamela Voorhees was petitioning the camp counsellors for many years.
I don't care what she's doing, right? Because the point is, the survival tip here is don't take your child who is a target for bullies to a place where he is consistently and viciously bullied.
Yeah.
If she hadn't taken him to Camp Crystal Lake, he may not have drowned and he may not have become a serial killer.
Is there a place he could have gone? I mean, are you excluding him from society just because he's different?
I'm not excluding him from society. I'm excluding him from a specific subset of people who are adverse to his health and well-being.
Yeah. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Largely, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. There must be a place for him to go where he won't be bullied.
Yeah.
But he is...
If not, put the child's welfare first and move somewhere where there is.
Yeah. That's true. Maybe he was already a murderer, though. He's not...
That's conjecture. You can't assume things we don't know.
That's true. Yeah, okay. She should have stepped in.
How about you? Any further ideas?
Yeah, this idea is for the father of Laurie, whose name I didn't write down.
Right.
Mr. Laurie's dad. Now, you'll remember he drugged Will.
Mm-hmm.
He took him to the psychiatric hospital and drugged him on Hypnosil.
Yeah.
Now, the Hypnosil is meant to suppress your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come across Freddy Krueger, then the Hypnosil will stop Freddy attacking you, basically, right?
Correct, yeah.
Now, here's my problem. And you're smiling as I think you've got a similar idea, possibly.
Go on.
Will was absolutely convinced that the father had killed the mother and had never heard of Freddy Krueger, right?
Right.
He didn't know it was Freddy Krueger who did those things.
Right.
It was only when he met Mark, who was his friend at the hospital, that he even heard about Freddy Krueger.
Right.
Because he was convinced the father had been the murderer.
Yeah.
Didn't know anything about Freddy. It's only at the end of the film that he realizes, oh, it was Freddy all along.
Mm-hmm.
So he was drugging him for nothing.
Yeah. Well, the reason I was smiling is the direction I thought you were going to go in was putting Hypnosil in the local water supply.
Yeah, that's my next idea.
That's your next idea. Well, there's a giant tick for that from me as well, because that kills a whole town's worth of birds with one stone. Because the problem seems to be isolated to Springwood. He doesn't target anyone else that we ever see, right? And the issue is people dreaming. Whether or not they know about Freddy Krueger is irrelevant if they never dream.
Yeah.
So just put Hypnosil in the water supply. Maybe some people go, oh, you know what? I feel like I haven't had a dream in a while. Seeing the life I've had would make a good man bad.
Yeah.
So for once in my life, please let me get what I want.
Yeah.
And what I want is Hypnosil in the water supply.
Yeah. Question though.
Yeah.
Obviously, with having Hypnosil, then everyone is free to know about Freddy Krueger, right?
Yeah. But what if you run out or the supply stops?
Yeah, you leave town.
Yeah, but he seems to be isolated to Springwood, as we said.
But is that because he hasn't...
His reach isn't wide enough.
Well, no, just because no one outside of Springwood talks about
But
it.
that's what I mean. Like his cultural impact is small.
Yeah.
Suppose
everyone in town knows about Freddy Krueger.
But he targets the people of Springwood because he has a personal vendetta against them.
That's true.
So he may not be interested.
But it does seem that generations and generations have passed by now.
Yeah, well, the thing that made me laugh was that they've... it's 4 years since Will has been in the asylum. Like 4 years is not enough time for like a whole town of people to forget entirely about like a local legend.
And not only that, we'll come to this because this is my next survival idea. But
right.
Yes, you're right. It isn't enough. So 2 points here. One, obviously, dose the entire town with Hypnosil.
Yeah, why not?
And lots of it. Is it cost prohibitive, do you think?
I've no idea. We don't know how much...
Hypnosil costs.
Yeah, and the markup on pharmaceuticals is high, but if you get, if you're part of the industry, then I'd imagine that, you cut a deal.
Yeah. Point 2. Why drug that guy? He doesn't know anything about Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. Well, it's to stop him dreaming, though, isn't it?
But he doesn't know about Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, but it's knowing about Freddy Krueger gives Freddy Krueger his strength, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if they don't know about him, then why bother drugging him?
Yeah.
You're right. It's senseless. But then maybe it's like, I don't know, he's like cutting a chain of events off at the source. So it could have been like, oh, but I saw your dad do it, and then the dad has to explain it, and he explains that it wasn't him, but it was Freddy Krueger, and then Freddy Krueger is talked about.
Right. Okay. So it's easier to just...
So he's saving his own skin, basically.
Right. Literally.
Yeah.
So you got any more thoughts on survival?
Yeah, one last one. It applies to Friday the 13th series as a whole. I'm sure it's come up before. Just stop camping at Crystal Lake.
Yep.
Enough bad stuff has gone on there by now.
Yeah.
You should have learned.
Yeah, I remember when we did The Descent, we talked about a real world story.
Yeah.
Of,
like caving misadventures.
Yeah, and
resulting in people's deaths.
And they filled one of the holes with concrete to stop people doing it.
Yeah, fill the whole region of Crystal Lake with concrete.
Pave it over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Job done.
Yeah. If you just dropped a bomb on there, do you think...
Would that kill Jason?
No. He's been killed many times. Doesn't seem to be able to be killed, does he?
No. Well, he has his head chopped clean off at the end, but then it's back on.
Canonically, though, this is the last of him.
Yes, correct. So he's still at large.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah. That's a good point. Worrying. Maybe he's on his way here right now.
Yeah. What about you? Any final thoughts?
Yeah. Do your market research, mate. That's my advice to Freddy. So Freddy's there at the beginning, giving the old talking head to camera. Giving I got no powers anymore. Right? Yeah. So he's worried. No one knows about him anymore.
Marketing, you thinking?
No, not simply not true. Because the sheriff knows about him.
Yeah.
That's one person. That's enough.
So what yeah, is it though?
Yeah.
Well, clearly not.
Here's what you do. You burn into the sheriff's bag, Freddy's back.
Right.
That's what he does to the other kids.
Is that a pun, by the way?
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
And then they go, who's Freddy? There we go, that's enough.
Yeah.
Someone does some research, job's done. You don't need to worry about Jason. You don't need to bother him.
Yeah. It does seem like the whole twist for him is that, oh no, Jason is going to uncontrollably kill all these people now.
Yeah.
I mean, has he not seen all the other Friday the 13th films?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. But like, there's at least, like I said, there's the sheriff.
Yeah.
Laurie's dad.
Yeah.
Presumably a lot of adults in the town because, like you said, it's only been 4 years.
Yeah.
And we know also he's not afraid of killing adults because he killed Laurie's mum.
Yeah.
So why is he not killing adults to get people talking?
Yeah. Maybe he should.
It's a big job.
He's got a kid. He's got too much focus on the kids, isn't he? Basically.
Yeah, he does worry about the kids.
Do you think it's sort of like adults are better at putting stuff out of their minds? Like, so
Possibly.
even though the people know about him, like in the remake, loads of people know about Freddy.
Yeah.
Like all the adults are hiding the fact that Freddy existed.
Yeah, and the original as well.
Yeah, so it must be that the kids need to know about it.
But that doesn't add up because
I know it doesn't.
Yeah.
I know. I agree, but that must be what it is.
so the kids need to know about him for it to be able to kill anyone.
Yeah, because maybe like adults don't have nightmares or something.
But we see him kill the mother.
Yeah,
Who presumably isn't
yeah.
a child.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have an answer for you. Unless the twist is that he didn't kill the mother and it was the father
Yeah.
and he's blaming it on Freddy. It's the perfect crime.
But he's not blaming it on Freddy. Presumably the police came around and were like, classic bit of Freddy Krueger that is.
Yeah.
And then we'll just burn the body.
Yeah.
We won't put any, this won't go to court or anything.
Yeah. So the father must have known about Freddy as well.
Exactly. So the father, the sheriff.
Well, it's good that the inclusion of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise really added some logical consistency to the whole proceedings, isn't it?
Yeah. And the Friday the 13th one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all we got time for.
11 down, 1 to go. Final Friday the 13th movie in 10 weeks' time. And that is, of course, the Friday the 13th remake.
Yeah. Can't wait, mate.
Yeah, it's
When did
gonna
that come
be
out? 2010? Something like that?
2013.
There we are.
Yeah.
4 years ago. Time flies.
Yeah. And, of course, next week we're covering a much more recent film. One that's still in the cinema, in fact. And that is It Comes at Night.
Yes. It certainly does.
Mm.
Pretty good film.
Yeah, and it comes to your podcast feed every Wednesday, as usual.
Yeah, so go seek it out. It's still in the cinemas, as Chris said.
Yeah.
And it's very much worth seeing in a cinema.
Mm.
Ideally in a quiet one where you've got lots of time to reflect on your life.
Yeah, don't make any plans for afterwards. That's all I'll say.
If you want to get in touch with us with your thoughts on how you'd survive Freddy vs. Jason, or indeed It Comes at Night, or indeed any movie, email us HowToSurviveShow@gmail.com, or you can reach us on Twitter, day and night, which is @HowToSurvivePod. And we are also now on Facebook, very active on Facebook. It's facebook.com/HowToSurvivePod.
And finally, of course, don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes, because that is a really big thing in terms of helping us find a wider audience.
Yeah, and I know a few weeks back we appealed to you and said that if every single one of you left us a 5-star review, then I would buy you all a Lamborghini. Now, you may recall I said that, and you may also notice that you don't have a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
It's because at least one of you has let us down.
Yeah.
I'm suspecting it's you, if you're listening.
Mm.
Statistically speaking, probably is.
Yeah.
Now,
so this week, instead, the car it's been downgraded to a Ford Fiesta.
Yeah.
So if you leave a review with the words Ford Fiesta included, then you might be in with a chance.
Yeah. And like I say, if every single person listening leaves us a 5-star review with the words Ford Fiesta in it, I will buy you a Ford Fiesta.
Yeah.
And
we won't cancel the podcast.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
If you don't want to leave us a 5-star review with Ford Fiesta in the title, then we will cancel the podcast.
A lot of people are saying, Chris and Joe, are you holding your audience to ransom by demanding that people leave you reviews? Otherwise, you'll cancel the podcast after 101 episodes. And I say, listen, that's not a review, is it?
No.
What I want is a review.
Mm.
And if I don't get it, then not only am I cancelling the podcast, but I'm going to delete all the old ones as well.
Yeah.
That's something that I have the power to do.
Yeah.
That's not outside of my remit.
Yeah.
And I can do that. There's no legal recourse. If you went, but what about all those podcasts that I really like listening to? Tough, mate. All right? Because none of you left a 5-star review over the week. All I want is for you listening to go and leave a review, and I won't delete all of the podcast.
Yeah.
And the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/HowToSurvivePod, or the Twitter account @HowToSurvivePod.
The thing is, though, I was playing around in the back end of the podcast system today, and there is a button that says delete show. There genuinely exists that button.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we will.
Yeah.
We will do it. We will delete
We're trigger
the show.
happy. We're trigger happy at the best of times.
Yeah.
Don't test us.
Yeah.
Just don't. It's not worth it for you. It's not worth it for us. Come on. We're reasonable guys.
Next week, it comes at night. Maybe.